Call the meeting to order on this date of 16 April. I'm going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Close. And if we could have roll call by the city clerk, please.
Mayor Bentley.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Young. Councilmember Ditmore. Here. Councilmember Frampus.
Here.
Councilmember McDowell.
Here.
Councilmember Volz.
Here.
And so we're all here. Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome everyone to the meeting. Members of the public are welcome to speak on any topic, whether it's on tonight's agenda or any issue that is important to you. Each person that wishes to speak should complete a speaker card and submit it ahead of time to the city clerk, and the papers are over by the door. After you've been recognized to speak, please use the microphone at the podium and clearly state your name and address for the record. Please address all your comments to the city council rather than individual members. Direct all questions to this chair. Speakers will be given up to 3 minutes. And the first order of business tonight is for Mr. Jace Lauer. And so we're going to ask him to come up. We're going to give him a document that I have and recognize his accomplishment. And Justin, you can come up with him. Up to the podium. Everybody can see it. Don't be nervous.
You want your chair. You want your chair.
Go for it. I'm good with that. How you doing? Good to meet you, sir. Well, we're going to say congratulations, but first, before we give you this, I want to have you tell us what it is that you did. I know that you're part of the science fair and that you competed, but I think you also had a problem with, you're in 6th grade. Is that true? And you need to be in 7th to be in the science, 7th or above to be in the science fair, but Brevard County made an exception for you. So tell us what your project was. You got a speech ready, right? Yeah. Go ahead. Tell us what your project was.
Well, I've always liked math for a long time, so I wanted to do a math project. I didn't learn about sequences of series in school yet, so I wanted to do a project about that. So I learned about different kinds of sequences, like the arithmetic sequence that has to do with addition and subtraction. The geometric sequence has to do with multiplication and division, and they are recursive sequences like the Fibonacci sequence. So if you add the two previous terms together in the sequence, then you get the next term of the sequence. So that sequence was made by Leonardo of Pisa from Pisa, Italy, and is known as Fibonacci. So if you add the two previous terms together in the sequence, you'll get the next term in the sequence. And I wanted to know if you change the starting terms of the sequence, then that'll affect the growth rate by the 10th iteration. Because the sequence started off with terms 1, 1. So I wanted to know if you change those starting terms, that'll affect the growth rate by the 10th iteration. And the growth rate from Fibonacci sequence is 1.618. So I created 200 sequences, and the growth rate by the 10th iteration was 1.618 in all of them.
So tell us about the 6th and 7th grade issue, how that got worked through. You know what I mean? I think you're supposed to be in 7th grade or above to be part of the science project. Is that true?
It's not supposed to be. It can be.
Okay.
Yeah, prior to this year, Brevard County evidently is only one of 2 counties in the state of Florida that didn't allow 6th graders to compete in their regional science fair, and the state science fair rules allow 6th through 12th grade. So we had to put a case together and submit it to Brevard County schools, and then eventually the superintendent Mark Rendell ended up siding with the documentation that we submitted to be compliant with the state science and engineering fair rules. It was backed up by the school board chairman, Matt Susan. So now going forward, any sixth graders in Brevard County will be able to compete in the Brevard Regional Science Fairs and be able to participate in the state science fair, just like all the other counties except one, I guess, left in the state of Florida that doesn't allow it.
I kind of believe they just didn't want to compete against you. So, all right. So this is from the City of West Melbourne. It's a recognition. As here, Jay Slower is hereby awarded in recognition of your commitment to excellence in the STEM fields. We remain proud of you. Your efforts to initiative and dedication to education is admirable. What you said a while ago, that was just fantastic. And I spent a lot of years in engineering, and I don't know many engineers that would have said what you said. So that was great. Thank you. All right, and there you go. We're going to get a picture. You're welcome. I appreciate it. Let's get a picture. Stay up, stay up. Get a picture. Come on up. Look at that camera back there. Really great job, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, actually, we have the police chief coming up next, giving a Cops on the Coop recognition. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm going to have Sergeant Rao join me up here. We're just here to celebrate the success of our annual Cops on the Coop fundraising event for Special Olympics. Certainly proud of our team, but we can't do it with many others that help out. And so whether it be the City Public Works divisions, Chick-fil-A, Walmart, local school principals, and our neighboring police agencies that we have such good relationships with, this couldn't be a success. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Rao to kind of brief you on the event. Like I said, our team did a great job, but I have to give kudos to Sergeant Rao. She was the ringleader of that and put together a really nice event for that evening. So Sergeant Rao, I'll turn it over to you.
First, I'm going to ask everybody that participated in the Cops on a Coop event to go ahead and come up so that after I get done speaking, we can present you with your letter of recognition. Thank you. Hello, hello. Hopefully everybody made it tonight. It looks like a good amount of people are here. So this was our 5th annual Cops on a Coop event. This year we combined some additional things for the community. The Cops on the Coop is one of the many events that law enforcement agencies participate for the Special Olympics. Special Olympics raises money for physical fitness, sports, and competitions for those with intellectual disabilities. So our agency takes pride in doing those kind of events to assist. In addition to that, law enforcement plays a major role in the Special Olympics, known as the Guardians of the Flame. We participate in a law enforcement torch run every year. It starts in March. Over 300 law enforcement agencies participate and run through 67 different counties, carrying the torch of hope for the Special Olympics. So to us, the Cops on the Coop is just another great way to raise money for that awareness. And we wanted to recognize all those members in the community that assisted us this year with the Cops on a Coop event. So I'm just going to name off the different organizations and individuals that participated so that they can be recognized with this certificate of recognition. So I have Walmart. Is anybody here from Walmart? Did they not make it? Okay. And I don't know if anybody made it from Public Works. I know they said they had some obligations. Public Works?
Mark.
Come on.
Mark.
Here he is. Fantastic. Put all the people on top that couldn't make it. There you go, Mark. Thank you very much. Public Works really helped us out. And they made a couple of trips for us because we needed some extra stuff. Central Middle School, anybody here? Chick-fil-A's here.
Always.
Thank you. Cookie the Clown. There she is. So we had face painting and balloon animals there as well, balloon animals for the kids. So we had a lot of people from the community show up. Hopefully next year we'll have just as many, if not more. Educational Horizons, there she is. Palm Bay Police Department, thank you very much. We like to work with the other agencies. Sunshine face painting. Here you go. Do I have anybody here from Imagine Schools? Nope. I have Melbourne Police Department.
Yeah.
And anybody here from Pineapple Cove? Did Pineapple Cove make it? What about Bound City? Come on up.
Yeah.
Why were you hiding? There he is. Did he? Okay, and Pablo, come on up for Walmart.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's a good.
So this is everybody that participated. We had a couple more that couldn't make it, and hopefully next year we'll have an even bigger turnout. So we just want to thank you again for helping. Yes.
Yeah, turn around.
You
Wow.
need
You're gonna have to scrunch in.
All right, thank
Oh,
you guys.
congratulations. Next up, we have the introduction of new employees. Public Works Director Mark Picarella is going to introduce them.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening,
Good
Councilman.
evening.
I'd like to introduce you to three of our newest hires within the last few months. We have Paul Hirsch here, who's been hired as an equipment operator on the streets and drainage side. We have Nicholas Taylor, who's been hired as a maintenance worker on the streets and drainage side also. And we have Alex Farrow, who's been hired as a maintenance worker for the Park Department. So all three, like I said, it's been a couple months with Paul being here. He was hired first, then Nicholas, and then Alex. So I'll let them say hi.
You guys want to say a few words?
How you guys doing?
Good.
I'm Paul, work for the Streets and Drainage Department, Public Works.
Where'd you come from? Yeah.
Born and raised here my whole life.
All right.
Haven't ventured far.
Well, we're happy to have.
Well, thank you for coming here to West Melbourne.
Appreciate you guys.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
Nicholas Taylor, work for Streets and Drainage, maintenance worker. I'm originally from Texas,
All right.
so recently moved down here, and thank y'all for giving me the job opportunity, and I won't let y'all regret it. So.
All right. Welcome to West Melbourne.
I'm Alex. How you guys doing?
Good.
I'm originally from Maryland. Moved here about 8 years ago, and just grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Welcome to West Melbourne.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You got to get a picture, guys. Come on. It's a requirement. Neither do we. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mark. Our police chief has got an introduction of some new employees as well.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, Todd Shoemate, if I could have Officer Shoemate join us. Officer Reynolds was supposed to be joining us, but as duty calls today, she's currently with a DUI female prisoner that needs some attention.
Ooh.
So we'll introduce her at another time. But happy to introduce Todd Shoemate to you tonight. Very lucky to get Todd as a member of our force. He has a long, distinguished military career in the U.S. Air Force. He served 21 years there. He worked as a dog handler there, an instructor. He was an operations superintendent for the security forces, so really a wealth of knowledge before he transitioned into civilian law enforcement. And he's got an associate's degree and also working on his bachelor's. I think you're close to completing that. He joined us in late 2023 after he had started at the Panama City Police Department after achieving Florida law enforcement certification. So just really pleased to have him as a part of our team. He moved through our training very quickly and was a solo patrol officer within a short period of time. So Todd, welcome aboard. Feel free to say a couple words. Yeah.
Hey, so Chief kind of stole my thunder.
Microphone.
Yeah, so Chief kind of stole my thunder, but yeah, I'm retired from the Air Force. It's kind of bittersweet, but I'm looking forward to new opportunities. Started my civilian law enforcement career in Panama City. It was very scary to retire after 21 years and do something different, but I'm loving it and I'm enjoying it. So unfortunately, I had some family circumstances that had to bring me here. However, I found a great home, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm still learning a lot. I look forward to meeting everybody, right? So if you see me around, come say hi. I love people. I love serving my community. So I look forward to just continuing to do great things here and continue to learn and be involved.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming to West Melbourne.
Thanks, Chief. All right, good to see you. All right, good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Next up, we have the Executive Director of the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization, Ms. Georgiana Gillette.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor and council members. It is always my honor and my pleasure to be here in front of this particular council. You know, we enjoy such a great working relationship with Tim and his staff. And I have to just thank you all for your leadership and our great TPO leader,
Very young.
you know, Chair Young. She really shows such great leadership on behalf of the region, but she's representing West Melbourne, and so we are so grateful for her. All right. So just to kind of kick it off, I mean, you all know that we have many networks of mobility that impacts our quality of life, and the influence of each one of these modes really transcends jurisdictional boundaries. You know, there are some things that really drive what road projects the TPO undertakes. Of course, connectivity, economic competitiveness, growth. We're growing by leaps and bounds. System performance, we have to know where the problems are. And of course, there's cost versus the revenue, cost feasibility. We unfortunately do not have enough funding to take care of all of our needs. And then there's public acceptance. You know, gone are the days when the public would embrace a road project and view it as progress. So those are things that we do have a challenge at times, but our citizens have a stake in everything that we do. And of course, you know, the best transportation plan is a great land use plan. The details of how a place is put together really help determine how well that project is going to work, or that transportation project is going to work. So let's talk about a few of those high priority projects that affect West Melbourne and beyond. Of course, the first one is US 192 Hollywood and Evans. Things are really starting to kick off. I drove through there right before this meeting. It was a top priority of the TPO for many years. We funded it with TPO funding, and as you know, we have limited funding. And we funded it because this project is a lot of bang for the buck. We don't have enough money to widen US 192, but making these intersections with additional turn lanes is really going to improve the capacity in that area, similar to Wickham and Minton. So left turn lanes will be added from eastbound and westbound US 192 to northbound Evans and southbound Hollywood. Exclusive dual right turn lanes are also planned from southbound Evans to westbound US 192. And of course, the existing traffic signal will be reconstructed and upgraded to new poles. Pedestrian mobility is enhanced with a new sidewalk along Evans, which connects to the existing sidewalk on US 192. And then a new sidewalk is also planned to connect 192 to the signalized mall entrance. So the estimated completion is the spring of 2025. So I know that that seems like a long time, and it's definitely going to impact traffic. It is such a busy area there. So hopefully there are no hiccups. It took the DOT a while to get started due to supply chain issues. So a quick update on the Ellis Road widening. Of course, this is yes, sir.
I don't know if you want to wait to the end for questions, but I had a quick question because one of the questions that has come up to me on that intersection in particular is the, what would it be, the east side of the street. Why the west side was selected over the east side, because the west side seems to be very limited with commercial presence, yet there was plenty of room on the right side, and I wasn't smart enough to answer why we didn't do it where there was plenty of room.
So you're referring to the right-of-way acquisition potentially?
Yes.
There were some impacts. I know during the feasibility study they looked at that very closely, and my understanding is they selected, you know, the best alternative that was not going to cost as much funding, not as much money. So that was my understanding.
Well, my response to them was, we have no idea what goes on underneath the ground, so I have no idea if there was, you know, something that was preventing us from doing that. But it was just logically, it looked like on that east side of the street of Hollywood, it would have been, seemed like there's plenty of room on that side where Barnes & Noble is currently.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. That
Thank
was
you.
the discussion, the Barnes & Noble. But
Appreciate it.
sure. All right, Ellis Road widening. You know, the right-of-way acquisition phase is underway. There are 83 parcels that require right-of-way acquisition. As of today, 27 parcels have been acquired. All offers have been made except for 4, which will hopefully be made next week, and I think that is for Florida Power and Light parcels. Right-of-way certification is expected to be completed by January of 2025. So the right-of-way will be certified. If you know, if there can not be, you know, if there are landowners that the DOT cannot come to a agreement with, then of course those will go to court. But the right-of-way will be certified at that point, which is extremely important for that project to move forward. Brevard County submitted a request for a state appropriation for early clearing and grubbing and utility relocation, which was a very smart thing to do, because typically once it gets into the construction phase, that particular aspect of the project can really delay it. So this is early clearing and grubbing and utility relocation that when the construction funding becomes available, they can just kind of move right into it and there not be any delay. So pending the governor's veto pen, it appears that the appropriation is for $10 million. And this is great news for the project. It's for any funding that is not used on utility relocation and clearing and grubbing can be used for right-of-way. And then that frees up the funding that is in fiscal year 25 for right-of-way, and then that will roll into the construction phase. So that is the strategy there. We are a little concerned that perhaps the $10 million, or at least a portion of it, is coming out of the Transportation Trust Fund, meaning the appropriation is not coming out of general fund, or at least a portion of it. So the DOT has expressed concern about that, and it may come out of our own hide in the form of another project that may get cut. But the point is that this is important. This is for our #1 priority. And so I think, and if it doesn't get vetoed, this is probably a very good thing for the project. We've received partial funding for construction in $34.2 million, and that is a partnership with West Melbourne, the TPO, and Brevard County, and the DOT. The DOT has got a lot of their federal money on the project as well for fiscal year 25-26, and we're 46.9 million short. You've probably heard that unfortunately we did not receive the infra grant. That was announced earlier this year, and the USDOT turned right around within a couple of weeks and issued the new notice of funding opportunity. So we didn't have a lot of time to reboot, and so our consultant is working on resubmitting that grant. We have some fresh eyes on it, and so we're going to go for round 2. And the thoughts are that the grant is due May 6th, so we don't have a lot of time. So the thoughts are that they're wanting to get it out on the streets. This is an election year, And so perhaps they will actually announce the award before the presidential election in November. So this may be good for us, we don't know, but we're going to go after it as hard as we can.
I'm sorry, can I ask you?
Wait, Diana's got her
Okay.
light on too.
Oh, I'm
so
sorry,
I'll let
okay.
her go. Go ahead,
Well,
Diana.
I was going to wait. Do you want questions now or at the end of your
You
presentation?
can go right ahead.
Well, I figured since he answered.
My question is in regards to the grant that we had submitted. I know that we were asking for letters of support from the chambers of commerce, from the cities that are impacted, that we would all send these letters for support. Knowing that we didn't get this grant the first time around, we may not get it the second or third time around, and costs are just going to continue to increase, most likely, rather than decrease. What is the plan from your perspective if that grant is never secured?
B.
Right, what's plan B for that road?
That leads me right into my new update. We actually had a meeting with FDOT Secretary Tyler at the airport just a few weeks back, about a month ago. And he wanted to kind of get us together just to say, look, this is an important project to us. We understand we've not been able to come up with the full funding for it, but that we would like to get together and perhaps set up a working group to talk about a portfolio of financing options. So in other words, whether it be a state infrastructure bank loan or a TIFIA loan or something where the department, it would probably have to be Brevard County would take out the loan, but the DOT would pay it back potentially over the next they're hoping 5 years, worst case scenario, 10 years. And so that I think is our plan B. And I'm grateful that we do have a plan B because we don't want the funding sitting there, the $34.2 million, to roll into the next year. We cannot let that money roll. It has got to go under construction in that year. It's too important. The traffic is already backing up terribly. So that's plan B.
Ms. Volz, get a...
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't know that we were actually doing the question thing. But I'm thinking $34.2 million amongst 4 or 5 funding groups does not seem to be that much. And yet we're short $47 million. And that's more than half of the project.
We had to cobble together the $34.2 million.
Well, obviously, yeah, for all the different people who submitted money, yes, that's what I was like, wow, and that's all we came up with?
That is all we came up with. I would have hoped that the DOT, let me just say, this is a strategic intermodal system facility on the National Highway System. Understanding that funding is a problem, but I think the DOT understands this project has got to get done. And I would have hoped that it would have already been funded by now. We're all doing the best that we can. The TPO, we get roughly $7 million a year in our federal FHWA funding. Every penny is on that project in fiscal year 25-26. So, the cost estimate, the cost of materials, the cost of labor, everything, that project has went up so much to where it's basically affecting the grant, because the federal government is wanting to know that, they want to make sure they're getting a return on their investment. Well, when you do your benefit cost analysis and it's outrageously expensive due to materials, it makes it look like they're not getting their return on the investment because our benefit cost analysis is so low. So it is a challenge. The timing of this could not have happened. It's really bad timing, I gotta say. All right.
Can I have a follow-up?
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. The request was through as part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Is that where I'm okay, so that grant, what was the total amount of the ask?
We asked for 46.9.
For the entire amount? Okay. Are you, in simple terms, could you just tell us why it was rejected?
There was
Just simple.
a host of reasons. We actually had a US DOT, a meeting with the DOT folks, and they went through it. They talked about each one of the criteria where they felt that we scored low. The benefit cost analysis, we had it, it's got to be over 1. We had it at 1.2. They marked it down on their own because they did not feel that it ranked that much. So if
So
you're
we've
under
learned
1,
quite a bit on this process going forward.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So it is, we're looking at it with fresh eyes, really a different consultant, and so I think that we feel really good about it. Whether we get the grant or not, it's hard to say. All right, let's talk about Hollywood Boulevard widening. Brevard County, as you know, is designing the full length of Hollywood from 2 to 4 lanes from Palm Bay Road up to 192. It, of course, will be a divided roadway, curb and gutter, as well as bike ped facilities. The county is designing it so that it can be implemented in phases, with the first phase being from Palm Bay Road to Eber. And so the estimated completion date of this design is April of 2025. They've really are a little disappointed, I think, in their consultant that is designing this, hoping that this would have already been done by now. Brevard County has successfully acquired multiple parcels through early acquisition, kind of in the vicinity of US 192 in the past few years, but they say that they've run out of money to do any more acquisitions, and they certainly don't have any money for construction. So their strategy at this point is to get the project shovel ready. In other words, the design is done, full design and permitting, and then the county is also conducting a congestion mitigation study on quite a few of their corridors, and this is one of them. And they want to look at some alternative projects such as turn lanes or things that can be done for less money, because the project is quite costly. This estimate that they are coming up with for right-of-way and construction is $96.2 million for all 3 phases. This is a county road off the state highway system. I can assure you, we don't have that kind of federal money. If we did, Ellis would have already been funded by now. So this is a challenge, and so we are, I know that we had a meeting, Tim and I, with the county to kind of talk about a lot of these projects that have funding challenges, and we're trying to wrap our head around what we can do here. So this is currently the status of Hollywood. And then last but not least, we understand the importance of Minton Road as the town center for West Melbourne. This is an important project for us. The feasibility study identified, complete street type improvements to improve vehicular bike ped improvements while reducing congestion. And to do that, our consultant really looked at some of the hot spots, intersection improvements from a safety and operational standpoint. And the project is now on the TPO's priority list. And the first phase needed is the design phase for improving all of those intersection improvements. I think the cost is $1.8 million, so it's not terribly expensive. And I think we're having ongoing discussions with the county, if the county would be willing to implement the design as a LAP project, a local agency project, because it's federal funding. This is another project off the state highway system, or if they're going to require the city to do a LAP project, which I don't think the city of Melbourne has done a LAP project. When you're dealing with federal money, there's strings attached, and as little as the project may cost, there's a lot of red tape and a lot of paperwork. So these are conversations that we're having, trying to figure out the best way to move this project forward.
Ms. Adams.
If you could flip back one slide, in regards to the Hollywood project, you have the design and permitting expected to be completed April of 25. So if that $96.2 million, and I don't know if that's today's cost or if that's the cost expected in April of 25, But let's assume that number doesn't change. If we cannot move forward with the next phases due to funding, then once that design and permitting is done, then the project just will sit until we can secure funding from various resources. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I think that's why the county wanted to try and cut this up into 3 phases. Certainly, maybe going after right away for phase 1, and then, but I think the phase 1 project costs for construction is like $29 million. But for a curb and gutter project, it's a lot of money when you got to use federal money. But potentially, if we could go after a grant, maybe a raise grant, it's just trying to get the project shovel ready and hopefully keep the momentum. But these projects require, especially USDOT, a 20% match. Ellis required a 40% match because it was the infra program, and we managed to cobble together about a 42% match for that project. So that's the challenge for all of us, is if you go after the federal grants, you got to come up with a match.
So the TPO has, is searching for grants on not only projects that affect West Melbourne, but projects that affect all of Brevard County. So with that in mind, are these projects that people on your staff are also searching for grants, or is that something, because it's a county road, that Brevard County could be searching for those grants? I know it's not a West Melbourne road, but it still affects our city. Could we be searching for them? I'm just trying to understand where else we can find support for this.
I think we basically had our consultant go through our priority list and come up with options for grants for every project on our priority list. So we know the type of grant that we could potentially go after. The challenge is, coming up with a match. 20% is a lot of money on a very large project. So basically, I know the county, we meet routinely with the county to kind of go over all of the projects, all of their county roads, and say, okay, what can we do? Their federal lobbyist is always kind of saying, okay, this grant just opened up. What about this? But the criteria, we have to consider that. Is it a project that has climate change or resiliency, or transportation disadvantage? There's so many different components that if you don't hit those criteria and those elements, you don't really have a shot. And so you have to, you can't take a project and then chase a grant. You just really got to figure out what's a good fit. What's a good fit for the project?
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. McDowell?
Thank you, Mayor. Director, I'm trying to understand, because based on what I just heard the Deputy Mayor ask you, I thought you said that we were having, the Brevard was concurrently going to look at the congestion mitigation element. Okay, so that's part of it, which is a mitigation project. It's a Band-Aid, if you will. It's a way to alleviate some of the traffic that we're dealing with on Hollywood. But my question would be, or the concern would be, should that be very successful, then that creates a delay as well, potentially, correct? Makes that 93 or 96 million go, well, maybe that we can delay that further even. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear on that process. Thank you.
Very good point, but I think that we would definitely have Tim, and we all need to be at the table and talking about how are we going to tackle these projects and what makes the most sense, really.
And I have a vested interest. I'm on Hollywood, so I'm the one up here. I'm the one up here that has to live with that. So
Yes,
thank you.
All right. As coming to a close here, I have to talk about this regional mobility project, because, we must consider regional mobility. This is what we do. We're a regional transportation planning organization. This particular project has been a priority for the TPO for basically a decade. For those that knew Mr. Bob Comm, this was a project that he wanted to do a study on, that the Port Canaveral funded, to do a station location study, and it identified the location near Clear Lake 528 US 1 as the preferred location for a Brightline station. It was called All Aboard Florida back then. And, you know, Brightline has now officially announced their intention to develop a station in Cocoa. So we are, needless to say, very excited about that. All of the inline stations were developed at the request of the local governments. So Boca, Aventura, Stewart, and Cocoa. These projects all came about due to requests from the local governments. And so Brightline's looking for funding partnerships. That's how every one of them got funded. And they built the mainline stations, but they did not necessarily fund the inline stations. And so we are working with the city of Cocoa to develop a funding plan, and this is a grant opportunity once we come up with our match to go after a CRISI grant, which is a USDOT grant. So we hope to be successful and make the most of this opportunity for economic development and to provide another travel option for our visitors, for our citizens. And this is truly a regional mobility project, so we're very excited about it. And this is my last slide. You know, we definitely we face a lot of challenges, such as the lack of funding. But, you know, we must recognize them and just seek opportunities to continue and, you know, enhance our exceptional lifestyle here on the Space Coast and prepare for tomorrow's workforce, because we have a lot of people coming here working in Brevard County. So we're multimodal, we're connected, and we're futuristic. And, you know, this is our transportation system of tomorrow. So be happy to answer any last remaining questions you might have. I'm sorry that I was a little long.
All right, Ms. Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. In regards to the Brightline, it's going to be up in Cocoa if things all move forward the way that the current plan is. Does the TPO have plans to look at the current infrastructure for getting people, let's say you're up in Cocoa, you're either taking the train into Cocoa or you're leaving your car and going elsewhere and then ultimately coming back? Do they have plans to look at the infrastructure that will get people from the Cocoa station elsewhere in Brevard County with the infrastructure we already have, looking at enhancing it or improving it, things like that?
Yes. Clear Lake Road, for instance, that's going to, that corridor, as far as the surface transportation goes, it's been on our priority list for a long time. We paid for a design update to have a roundabout at the Cocoa Curve. This was an option that Brightline really liked because that potentially is going to be the front door of the station, to, you know, go there within the roundabout, kind of go around Walmart and to behind it. And so that will be the front door. The widening of Clear Lake, the widening of 524. But industry is right there off of 528, so you've got a really good regional network. As far as connecting all of those modes, we are coming to an end of our feasibility study, so looking at, you know, what type of shuttles, you know, would the port be interested in potentially having a shuttle, or some of the cruise lines from the Brightline station to the port? Would Space Florida want to have a shuttle to the Space Center? You know, we know where the major destinations are at that location. How do you get people out as they come in? So all of that is being looked at. You know, if we do apply for this grant and are successful, it'll be several years before you actually get the money. So there's going to be a lot of coordination that's going to be happening within that time. And again, hopeful that the DOT can actually step up to the plate and fund some of our state roads, which has been a challenge, to say the least.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Young?
I just wanted to say thank you, Georgiana. You have a marvelous staff, and you are an excellent director for the TPO. Every month when we have our meetings, and you work so hard to make me look good, and it's all on staff. So thank you very much. You have the whole county on your plate. You know everything about the transportation for the entire county. So thank you for pulling out this bit that just reflects West Melbourne and bringing it up and bringing it here tonight. Thank you very much. Excellent job. Thank you.
So much, and thank you for bringing up staff because they really do all the hard work, and I owe it to them. So thank you for saying that.
Ms. Foltz?
I just wanted to say that with the being so close to the port, that I would automatically assume that the port would be a big player in this, in bringing people from the Orlando airport or somewhere over there to the cruise ships. I mean, that's probably a #1 project, I would think, for the port, because that's going to bring a lot of people over there.
We do have a meeting with the port folks tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Tomorrow is all Brightline. Tomorrow we'll be meeting with the port in the afternoon, and then later in the afternoon with the city of Cocoa to discuss the Chrissy grant. So it's Brightline all day tomorrow. So, but thank you for that.
Mr. McDowell?
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick, did you mention how much that grant was going to be for the Cocoa?
The station, we are in the process. We're meeting
Just
with.
a big number, a round number.
I'm thinking it would be anywhere from 60 to 70 million.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then I do want to just take this moment to acknowledge that I'm an alternate. I've attended a couple of meetings, and that room is filled with A-type personalities, a lot of them very strong personalities with their positions, and I want to congratulate the re-election of the chair and the leadership of Andrea Young in that. She does a great job with that. Thank you.
Yes,
Any additional comments? Thank you for coming out and giving us an update. All right, so we're going to move on to the public hearing portion of our meeting, and first up is ordinance number 2024-10, bid protest, with Mr. John Kerry leading it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe suggest public comment first if...
A public forum?
There's an error in the agenda that went out on Thursday, had public forum before the public hearing, which was an error. For the last 20 years, we've had public forum after the public hearing, and so there was an amended agenda that was posted this week to correct that. So I know we have a room full of people and who want to speak, but just
all right, so you want to do the public forum first?
No, the public hearing should go first.
Okay.
So.
And that's where, am I confused? Because that's where item A is for Mr. Kerry.
Correct.
I skipped the public forum.
We didn't know if you wanted to offer the public to speak on this item first.
No. So, ordinance number 2024-10, item A, Mr. John Kerry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you noted, this is ordinance number 2024-10. This ordinance was something that I drafted as part of my review of the code that you all requested when you brought me on. This is what I perceive as a hole in our code because we don't currently have a bid protest ordinance. Over the past 15 years or so, there's been maybe one bid protest, and they've handled it in-house, and it hasn't really been an issue in the past 15 years because, my perception has been that the contractors have had a lot of work, and if they don't get the bid, they move on to the next one. Obviously, if there's an economic downturn, the proposals could get a lot more competitive, including bid challenges, and I want to be ready to handle those if we do get them by having an ordinance that would direct the procedure for moving forward with the bid protest, as well as requiring a bid bond, so that somebody who puts in a protest has to do it carefully and considering the cost of doing it if they're not upheld, because the bond does require them to put some skin in the game, rather than currently without an ordinance, anybody could protest a bid with a free bite at the apple. And so My recommendation is to approve this ordinance, and if I may, Mr. Mayor, can I read the title? Thank you. This is ordinance number 2024-10, an ordinance of the City of West Melbourne, Florida, relating to bid protests, providing for legislative findings and intent, creating Chapter 8, Article 1, Sections 8-51 through 8-57, providing for bid protest procedures, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification and scrivener's errors, and providing an effective date. Thank you.
And in line with what Mr. Rhodey was saying, because I, after reflection, better understand what you were trying to tell me. I was looking at the public forum that we moved on the new agenda. So anybody from the public want to speak on this topic before we have the council talk on it? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing part on this. And Mr. Frampus?
Make a motion we approve the second reading of ordinance number 2024-10 as written.
Mr. Ditmore? So we have a motion from Mr. Frampus, a second from Mr. Ditmore on ordinance number 2024-10, the bid protest. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes 7-0. The next item is Ms. Christy Fisher, rewrite of the comprehensive plan for 2045.
Yes, what we'd like to ask for is a postponement. So this is listed under public hearings. We did the advertisement, and the Planning and Zoning Board would like to give additional feedback. And in order to allow them that additional feedback in May, then instead of coming to you all tonight with the comprehensive plan, we will come to you May 21st. So if you could make a motion to postpone to date certain, that notifies the public.
Do you need to do B and C both, or one at a time?
One at a time. They're different topics.
Okay. Mr. Ditmore?
Thank you, Mayor. Make a motion to postpone the rewrite of the comp plan until May 21st, 2024.
Mr. Frampus? So for the rewrite of the comprehensive plan, we have a motion from Mr. Ditmore and a second from Mr. Frampus. Mr. McDowell, did you want to speak?
I just have a question about this, just for my own benefit. Was it a consensus of the group, or was it just one in particular that created the delay? And
It was a consensus.
so there was, okay, the majority of it, nobody was dissenting, and
Right, no, not at all.
nobody's going to be calling.
They weren't dissenting
Okay.
against it. They want to do the opposite. They want to dive a little more deeply.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Adams?
And just for Mr. McDowell's benefit, my understanding from being the audience for that meeting, members of that board will be meeting with staff one-on-one, similar to how council does before something big will come up. And I thought they asked some really good questions of staff.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, so again, we have a motion for Mr. Ditmore, second for Mr. Frampus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. Christie?
Okay, the next item is C, Welchwood Small Scale Map Amendment and Rezoning. So what we're asking for is that on this case, this is, a private landowner who's asked to change the zoning and the future land use map. But their attorney was not able to attend tonight's meeting. So they've asked for this to also be postponed, and that would be May 21st. So the same line of reasoning. First, it has to go to the Planning and Zoning Board that month, and then it comes to you all. So the request is a motion for postponement.
Mr. Ditmore?
I'm going to make a motion. Just a quick question for Mr. Carey. Mr. Carey, postpone and tabling are the same for Robert's rules?
No. Tabling would be to essentially to kill the item. Postponing it is moving it to another date.
Oh, when we table, we move it to another date as well.
If you're asking for the Roberts Rules definition, tabling is to kill it.
Okay.
Sometimes tabling is used incorrectly, but we're postponing it to another date.
Okay. All right. Make a motion to postpone the proposed. Make a motion to postpone the Welshwood Small Scale Amendment and Rezoning to May 21st, 2024.
Thank you. Ms. Young?
Second.
Seeing no further comments, we have a motion from Mr. Ditmore, a second from Ms. Young. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. Which moves us back in my old schedule to the public forum. So persons wishing to speak must fill out a request card. You get 3 minutes, and it's limited to 30 minutes. And I have a card from, excuse me? 30 minutes total, 3 minutes each. Well, we've got lots of time. Ellen Harold, you have a speaker card turned in? Welcome.
For having me. And
Need your name and your address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ellen Harold. I'm at 3455 Burdock Avenue.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Andrea Young for reaching back out to. There's many of us who are concerned about this and sent our thoughts to you guys. And Ms. Young did reach out to us and offer support. So we are very thankful for that. So Crystal Lakes West is located at Eber and Minton. Burdock backs up right to 95. We have about over 300 homes in the neighborhood. We've had a buffer, like a vegetative buffer, lining 95 behind Burdock Avenue since the beginning of time. So our neighborhood started being built in 2007, and there's been no changes to the vegetation since then. Even through the expansion of I-95, there was no reason for them to remove the vegetation. They didn't remove it then. These last couple of weeks, over the last couple of weeks, we'd come home and find our whole backyards open to I-95 for no apparent reason. Let me just go back to my notes, sorry. So I am speaking kind of on behalf of my family, but also I've been kind of elected as the speaker for the group. There's a lot of people who wanted to come and weren't able to, but the general consensus is something has to change. There's one picture there. You can see the vegetation before they cut down my trees, and then this one shows when I came home the other day. And you can see the highway, you can smell it, the noise is multiplied. I've been told even people who live a couple of blocks over can hear it over there. It just echoes through the neighborhood, through the lake areas and everything. It's really bad. So the buffer had provided, it had minimized the noise a bit. It also provided a visual barrier between our homes and the traffic on the highway. It provided protection from the exhaust fumes that we're now breathing in. When the vegetation was removed, tires were pulled out of the trees. So, there's a lot of accidents back there. And I feel that if the trees weren't there, they could have been flying into our yards, where our children are, where we are. So it gave us a bit of physical protection from road hazards. Let's see. It provided privacy to our backyards. When the vegetation was cut down, the noise pollution was magnified tenfold. It completely robbed us of our privacy that we have always had here. Our properties on our side of Burdock already have a lower property value because of the noise. Now the noise is worse. There's also, you look at it and who wants to buy a house that has, looks like you're on I-4. It's right there. So it has decreased our property values as well. Basically what we're asking is for your support to try and get the Florida Department of Transportation to fix this problem. We don't know why they did it. They said to remove invasive species that has been there for decades. They didn't consider the implication that it was going to have on the community around them. So, and we have called them, and they've told us basically, so sorry, it's non-native plants, they're invasive, we removed them. You live on a highway, so what did you expect? And we don't feel that that is fair. It was always there. That's how we bought our homes. There's also the environmental aspect. If you look at that, they cut down all of these trees. They said to remove the invasive species. They didn't dig them up. They cut them down, left the roots there. They'll come back, but not in very much time. It's going to take a while. So whether they put a physical wall, a noise barrier, which they had done in different areas. There's one up by Malabar in 95. There's one down by O'Galley exit in 95. Those were installed when at least I know the O'Galley one for sure, was put in place when the expansion to the highway was being done. Our neighborhood started being built in 2007. The highway was expanded in our area beginning in 2008. So our neighborhood, granted, most of the houses were not there yet, but the roads were there, it had already been cleared. We were there, and they still have not put a barrier.
Got about 30 seconds.
Okay, so if they put in native vegetation, large, fast-growing trees, it will help stabilize the soil. It will help protect runoff, which will that could affect the Indian River Lagoon, and prevent erosion. We just please, can I have Crystal Lakes West stand up to show you who all's here so far? And these are the people who could at the last minute show up. So please, we just beg you, help us with the Department of Transportation, because they won't listen to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else from the audience want to fill out a speaker card and speak on this topic? Or just come up and speak? I won't even.
We're friendly, we promise.
We don't bite.
There we go, one break.
Thank you, sir.
Hello to everybody here. Basically what she said.
Name and address, please.
I'm sorry?
Name and address, please.
My name is Clayton Turner. Address is 3295 Burdock Avenue in Crystal Lakes, West. And I'm pretty much piggybacking on what she said. I was really, really shocked to come out maybe, what was it, like a week and a half ago. And like she said, there was brush, everywhere. So I was always, used to walking out to the brush. So then I walk out one morning, and the next thing I know, the highway's right there. So, I mean, honestly, I was like dumbfounded, because I don't know, why would you, do that? So I started calling around. I think I ended up calling somebody in the DOT. Finally, I must have talked to like five or six people. Then I ended up talking to, I guess, the actual guy that was cutting it down. Just like, hey, this is the DOT and this is what we have to do because it's an invasive species. But like she said, I would personally like, at least, even if there's not a wall that's put up, but even if there's trees that could line it or something, because even from a safety perspective, if there was a semi that was to come off that road and to hit that wall, there's no doubt in my mind that it would shred straight through that wall and probably go through my patio, probably into my living room. And I hope something like that never happens to anybody in my neighborhood, but you just never know. So, I'm here hoping that you guys will, hopefully speak on our behalf, and maybe the DOT may, step in and hopefully grant us something.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up, sir.
My name is Denny Lefevre. Address is 3545 Burdock Avenue. Now, I know the funding for this wall that we hope to have in place would come from the Florida Department of Transportation. Back in 2009, when they were installing it along the freeway in other areas, but not behind us, I got in contact with them. I was told that the areas that they were installing it was based on the 2000 census. And they said, you were nothing but a field at that time. The 2010 census will show all the residents. So 8 years from then, you can expect to have a wall put in. It's way past that. This council seems to know the woman that was in the jumpsuit. She seems to be very influential with the Department of Transportation.
And they all
and
just wrote
she's
her.
throwing out huge numbers compared to preformed concrete slabs that you put on pillars. If you could talk with her and see if this little small project compared to the other one she spoke of can be a priority, it would help us. us. So
Thank you, sir.
please talk to her.
I would add that I did see a video of this online, and it's better seat than at a NASCAR race. You guys are right there at the interstate, and I saw those cars zipping by, and I said, man. So I'll talk to our city manager. Someone from the city will obviously give you a reply to this. But anybody else? All right, so we're going to move on to the next item. Thank you guys for coming and presenting. I think all of us have seen that video, so hopefully, they'll get with the leadership and see what, if anything at all, that West Melbourne can do. So thank you for coming out. Next on our list is the consent agenda, and the only thing I think that we have is the city council meeting minutes for the last meeting. So if I could get a motion, Mr. Ditmore?
So moved. Passed. Presented.
Ms. Foltz? Seeing no further lights, I have a motion from Mr. Ditmore, a second from Ms. Foltz. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes. Oh, any against? Seeing none, it passes. I was going to pass it anyway. Passes 7-0. So thank you for that. Next thing is the action agenda, and we have Mr. Mark Petroni, I think, coming up for Sheridan Estates.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Mark Petroni, Capital Projects Manager. Yes, you have in front of you Sheridan Estates, mainly Sugar Pine Drive and Pine Needle Lane sidewalk repair replacement. When this subdivision was done, the sidewalk was installed in close proximity to very large pine trees and oak trees. Over the years, residents have also planted additional landscaping in close proximity, and basically the root systems at this point now have grown underneath the sidewalk, which has caused a large amount of cracking and popping up, causing basically some toe kicks and hazards for the residents. So reached out to 4 different companies, got 2 people responded. I went out there and painted all the damaged areas, and we got 2 bids. The fiscal impact, obviously it's going to make it safer for the residents over there, but basically there's a liability issue. I think it reduces our liability from anybody tripping and falling. Based on that, I'm here to ask you to approve and authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Sheepdog Concrete LLC in the amount not to exceed $49,600 for the replacement of all the damaged sidewalks in the Sugar Pine subdivision. And I'm here for any questions.
Mr. Ditmore?
So I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to execute that contract with Sheepdog Concrete for $49,600 for the replacement of the damaged sidewalks in the Sugar Pine subdivision. And I do have a comment after the second.
Mr. McDowell?
I do have a comment as well. I'll second that motion, though.
All right. Go ahead. Mr. Ditmore, comment?
Thank you, Mayor. About a year ago, I went to an event down in the city of Melbourne. They were talking about doing some restructuring with the downtown area. One of the things they were looking at doing was replanting some oak trees along the sidewalk areas. So I talked to their city planner, and I asked him, I said, aren't you concerned with these oak trees lifting up the sidewalks and so forth and so on? She goes, no. She goes, when we install these, it's the way they're installed. There's some kind of a procedure that when they install these into the ground, the root systems are designed to go down rather than out, specifically with these particular oaks that we have. So my question for the city manager or for the city attorney, and I know that for our neighborhoods, I'm looking at this as we're responsible for the sidewalks in some of our gated communities. Would it be appropriate to have a ordinance in place that, because these particular trees actually push these sidewalks up over a period of years and they crack driveways and sidewalks, that the installation of those near the public sidewalks within so many feet or so should be designed so that the root systems go down so we're not actually spending money in a few more years from now?
We'd be happy to take a look at that. I'm not aware of those, but there was definitely a design flaw in this subdivision when it was built.
point of order, though. We have a motion, and so this is not contingent on a ordinance, is it? Is that what you're suggesting?
No. I'm just asking if there's something we can do. We're discussing as to avoid having to spend money like this in the future.
New subdivision.
Okay, so it's not going to change the motion in a second. We're just moving forward. Okay.
So the only reason I wanted to chime in is to let you all know the landscape code takes that into account, and it has for many years. But a subdivision like the one that Mr. Petroni's talking about, that was before the separation distance. So that's been in the code, I want to say, for at least 10, 15 years. That, you know, the large trees should be at least 6 feet away, or if they're not, I believe the mechanism that you're talking about, council member, is a root barrier. And, you know, that's definitely written into the landscape code.
How does that apply going forward for older community? Will they have to, are they exempt from that, or are they going to have
Not exempt for that, yeah. Any of the newer subdivisions, the single-family homeowners need to comply with that, or their developer. So
So an older community wants to, I want to put a tree up. Am I bound to the new or to the old?
I'm going to let the
If you're putting a new tree in, you'd be bound to the current code. I think the issue is these trees were installed prior to this current code being in effect.
I think the other thing is going to be an education piece for people that don't know. They just go out and plant trees. So, okay, thank you.
So, right. So my question is more about, one, is that this money, $50,000, is that part of an allocated amount that goes in the budget and it's automatic that we're planning on spending X amount of dollars for sidewalk replacement?
So we did budget $150,000 when we originally started this project we budgeted into this year's budget. When we were looking at this last year, we did about $10,000 of work with our own crews that were what I would consider, couldn't wait, fixes that we had to take on. And now Mr. Petroni put together the package for the rest of it and went out to bid. And so we're still well under budget, although we are looking at some other sidewalks in the community and see if we can get some other use out of those funds. But we did budget $150,000.
All right, that's important to understand. So we're not doing anything outside of the expected budget that we were planning on spending, but this was an area that we had I had looked at prior, and it kind of falls into that whole idea that we on our prior meeting for budget is that we need to have some kind of replacement system for our sidewalk systems throughout, because we talk about them all the time. I mean, we talk about which sidewalks are needed and where they're needed, and I think it's much greater than a $150,000 project, long term. So I approved it, so thank you.
And I would just point out that the reason this is before you is because it's above the $25,000 city manager threshold for spending without your approval. So it's not because it's not budgeted, it's because it's above that amount.
Thank you for that. Mark, I do have a question, or a comment, maybe both. We did this in Ashley Manor probably 6 years ago because we have oak trees that go underneath our sidewalks, and they were a trip hazard. So we had them come out, shave them, or replace them, whatever was the right thing. Now, 6 years later, it's back. What are we going to do to keep this not being an issue in another 6 years or so on that? If we're not moving trees or we're not doing something, what's going to keep this from spending another 50 grand or 100 grand in 6 years?
Well, I don't ever have a crystal ball, but I mean, I've worked talking with this contractor when he goes and we start pulling out the old sidewalks. If there's a root system there, we're going to cut them back.
Okay.
And there is, I don't have the exact name of it, but there's anti-growth that they can actually put on the root system that's environmentally safe that will slow that root down. But that's about the best that we're going to be able to do is try and get rid of it.
So that's part of the plan?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Frampus.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, I was looking at the two different bids, and they're substantially different.
Sure.
One is going to use 8,000 square feet of concrete. One's going to use 5,000 square feet of concrete. One talk about using fiber mesh in the concrete, and the other one doesn't. One talks about removing the roots and the other one doesn't. We chose the one that doesn't use the fiber mesh, doesn't remove the roots, and is going to use more concrete, but I'm wondering why are they so different? And I know this is just a quote and it's not the full parameters of the contract, so are they doing all this other stuff? Are we going to use fiber mesh? Obviously, it makes the concrete a lot stronger. Are we looking at extra fees here by them removing the roots? Because it doesn't say that. Quote.
Well, I'll start off. The first difference is from the 5,000 to 8,000. The first one does not include the sidewalks go through the driveways, and there's a lot of the areas. So that's where this second bid picked up and actually included the driveways, where the first bid for the 60,000 did not. So that's where the extra square footage came.
Or wasn't in the initial parameters?
I asked him and I painted everything, and he came back. I asked him about it, and he was at 60,000. The other gentleman came in that was including it, so we started looking at him a little harder. So the driveways are a key part of this because people walk through that 1 4-foot section through the driveway. So that's where the 8,000 square feet came through, which is additional to the 5,000. I was under the impression, when I talked to him, that we were doing 3,000 square foot PSI fiber mesh, which is almost a standard, typical thing. I'd have to look back at it again. I don't have that in front of me right this second. I just have the agenda item.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't in the quote, so I don't know how much additional cost that would incur or not. How about the roots?
That was just something that he has to do, that we talked about when I met him out on the job site, that he was going to do. I didn't know it needed to really be put in there because you've got to get the form boards in there to be able to actually even put the concrete in. So I just considered it part of his means and methods.
Well, my concern is, like the mayor said, that if you don't cut them back far enough, they'll damage the concrete again. And I was just curious of what our requirements were when we put the bids out.
Well, it's going to be kind of hard until you pull the concrete, but you really know where the roots really go. We can't go back.
Well, the concrete got destroyed because of the roots, right? I mean, so we can assume they're there.
Yeah, how far we can cut them back, I don't have that answer, but I don't think we can go back too far into somebody's property, just far enough to get the project, completed. And hopefully, if we can put that preventative on there from growing back, at least at a slower pace, we won't have to come back in front of you again.
I just want to make sure that we're also, putting out the same information to each contractor, and it's them that's not following what we're telling them to, because these are way different. So it was concerning. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion from Mr. Ditmore and a second from Mr. McDowell. I don't see any lights. Huh? Well, we can vote without her. It's funny, though. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes 6-0 with one missing in action. I think I'll word it like that. Next is item B, which is install mezzanine in Public Works Maintenance Shop, and Mr. Mark Picarello, I think, is handling that one. Do you guys want to take a break after this, or are you good to go?
It's early.
I'm just asking. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is a project we were looking at for the last few years to utilize some space that we have in our maintenance shop for additional storage. So what we did was, if you ever been in our maintenance shop, we do have half walls that when they built it never did anything for it, so it's kind of a wasted space. So we're looking to have some more inside space for some of the more important things we have, get some of the stuff off the shop floor, give them a more of a permanent home. So as you can see, we put it out to get 3 quotes. And the cheapest quote we got to do it was Brevard Framing and Drywall for $32,516. So it's my recommendation that we move forward with that and offer it to them to install the mezzanine, and that to give us some more extra space in the shop.
Thank you. Mr. Ditmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Make a motion to award the contract to Brevard Framing and Drywall for the amount of $32,516 to install the mezzanine in Public Works.
Mr. Frampus.
A second one, a question.
Go ahead, sir.
A couple of the other bids talk about the railing. What's the railing on the stairs going to be like for this contractor? Because I don't think it was very clear on there.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay with the aluminum rails he's putting up around the structure itself.
So it's going to be are they wood stairs with aluminum, or are they going to be
wood stairs
metal
with aluminum
stairs?
rail. Yes.
Do we know he's putting in a railing now, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because it has to meet, obviously, code for that, so.
All right, no further lights. So we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Detmore, a second from Mr. Frampus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. Item C, Sunrise Estate Subdivision, and we have Ms. Fisher up.
And you could put down that I was going to be a yay on that last one when I was not here.
Okay, Sunrise Estates final plat, for the record, Christy Fisher, the planning director, and again, we do this presentation really just to explain to the audience and to help council understand, what's being requested. We're not trying to, present for the applicant. The applicant is here, and, any really technical questions or sort of operational questions about the subdivision, I'm sure they'll be happy to answer. So the background of this particular case, the applicant that we were talking about was Chris Osa, Kimley Horn, and he's the PE, the practicing engineer for Pulte Homes Company. That's the actual property owner. The size of this property is 51.37. This is located east of St. John's Heritage Parkway and south of the southern boundary of the Space Coast Town Center, so roughly about a half a mile south of that intersection of US 192 and St. John's Heritage Parkway. The preliminary plat, which, as you know, at that point in time when it goes through, it's a public hearing. That all occurred in September of 2023 and was approved. There were some conditions for that approval. Remember, this is a true subdivision in that it's for residential, so 255 residential owned units, so owner occupied. I think that was a question that might have come up earlier, but since this project has been sort of going along, well, in the pace that normally they do, it just, to remind you all, this is one of the few newer owner occupied residential projects that we have. There's stormwater tracks, recreation, open space tracks, a sewer lift station track, and then it is going to be all private right-of-way, and that's the other agenda item that you all will be, taking a decision on, is about the gated community. So again, this, for the final plat portion, it already received its recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board on March 13th, and it's now coming before you all. What we did with the document that you have, this is part of the plat, but we just tried to sort of summarize some of what, the drawing has. And I know that this slide is busy, has a lot of lines on it, but it was to illustrate that, the blue obviously is the retention ponds. You're always going to have a lot of that in Florida. We need to have retention ponds. You have lift station tract. This does back up to Brandywine Estates. So it's good that there's a big buffer in between, and the townhouse lots are sort of in that, left-hand corner, and they share the driveway coming in, the main driveway coming in, but they're really just concentrated in that front portion. The rest of it are single-family lots. Stormwater Track C and tree preservation buffer, for those who were here in 2023 when we went through preliminary plat. The illustration that we have on the bottom, which is a cross-section view of the area that we sort of have as this blue rectangle with water. This was to show the Brandywine folks sort of the distance at a minimum of 150 feet between properties. So remember, this is a subdivision that is not right on top of its neighbors. It has some separation distance, and they're going to use the pond and trees and a fence, and we went through all of that in 2022. It's actually stated in that 2022 development agreement. Subdivision access, of course, you know, when they have 255 lots, they have to have the 2 access points, so they do. Both of them are on St. John's Heritage Parkway. There are no other public roads for them to connect to at the time, and this is adequate. This, you know, is something where they're going to be able to access from the southern part of the property and midway, and so that makes sense.
Christy, what's the distance between the two?
I'm actually going to have the engineer tell you that because I don't have that on me. Brevard County years ago did install a southbound deceleration lane, and they had a sort of a stub out, we call it, for that middle driveway. And the traffic study was approved by both the city and Brevard County. As you know, St. John's Heritage Parkway is a county road, so any connection or changes to it, they have to get county approval. As far as the subdivision, and LDR stands for Land Development Regulations, we look at this and we make sure that it complies on a number of levels, and so those are all the check marks. Remember, in order to sell the properties, they need to have an approved final plat, and this is the process that we're in now. For the infrastructure, we do have the city engineer here in case you did have any questions. But they did go through the review. It's called construction drawing review, and it's a big set of drawings that go into the details of the stormwater, or the water, and the sewer. That's not really part of the plat, but it helps to form the final plat. And then even the schools, there's requirements through our interlocal agreement with the school board to make sure that, you know, they're aware of the project and that they have identified where the school-age children will be attending. And then for the recreation, the payment in lieu of dedication of land is requirement, and, you know, law enforcement is the city. So previous action, as a reminder, the first bullet we went over. The second bullet was a comment that was raised during that preliminary plat public hearing about the dead-end streets along the northern portion of the site, so specifically in the townhome area, to determine if T turnarounds or cul-de-sacs can be created. So what we ended up doing after that was the civil engineer for the project, our civil engineer, Brevard County Fire Department and their review team took a look at the street layout, and they determined there was no concern about fire truck maneuvering, and expressed that the short townhouse street distances met their codes. So they would be able to comfortably back up a truck, and they have hoses sufficiently long enough to be able to access, you know, the fire hydrants and, you know, whatever fire they might have to fight at that particular time.
One of the concerns there was also the waste management trucks. Were they consulted?
No, because if they meet the fire county standards, the waste management goes along with that. So they.
Waste management's going to be backing up there twice a week, where fire department hopefully will never be backing up.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Thought it might be good to consult with them.
Yeah, the code is really what we have to go by, and that's what the code says. Was certainly something I can bring up with the city manager if we want to consult one of our franchise providers. So March 13th, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval. I'm not going to read through the items, but those were the 6 topics, you know, and some of those topics are still part of the conditions of approval. And since March 13th, the developer has submitted the performance bond guaranteeing the installation of the infrastructure and sidewalks. And then the second thing is the developer did submit the check for the recreation fee in lieu of the dedication of public land. Outside agencies are coordinated with, and they did issue the permits that are necessary for this subdivision to be built. And then the Planning and Zoning Board, you know, did recommend approval of the Sunrise Estates final plat with the following conditions. Along with the final plat, City Council must approve the gated community prior to the issuance of the first residential CO. Sewer, force main, lift station, as-built elevations shall be accepted and approved by the city. The third one has to do with the trees, that if there's, you know, for some reason the trees that are along Brandywine in that area can't be saved, they're to notify us, and then we are to work with them. That's number 4. with the city's tree mitigation bank fund and planting new trees. So those are the recommendations. Now, the question that I have for council is I can continue and talk about the next agenda item, which is the gated community, or if you wanted to stop before we go into this and ask some questions, it's up to you all.
Aren't we just talking about the gated community?
Go for it.
Okay, so the gated,
Well, the first part, there's two
final
parts to this, so the final plat and this, I think you did the second one first.
Oh.
So, yeah, go ahead with the second item, whether we do allow a gated community or not, I think.
right. All right, so the gated community background, remember, there's basically 3 sets of criteria that we look at: the emergency responder, sensitive designed entrances, the stacking of cars waiting to enter and exit the gate, and the connection of sidewalks and bicycle paths to the surrounding public pedestrian systems. This was the exhibit that you should have seen for the proposed gate features. And it's really just sort of a zoom in for their primary entrance, which, remember, was roughly in the middle of that property, and the southern entrance, which they're calling their secondary entrance. So I don't know if you all can see sort of these black marks that indicate where the gate is, but on this one, it's a little bit further up, and so you have quite a bit of stacking. That's what these images are cars. It's roughly an average size car, and you have quite a bit of stacking. You've got the ribbons of sidewalk on both sides of the road, and then they also were required to submit what would the gate actually look like. So they submitted their rendition of what the gate's going to look like. Then they also put the information that we were interested in, which is, how does an emergency service provider get in? And so they have all the devices that are needed. And for those who were here in 2018, the discussion about click to enter was a big topic. And Brevard County really started enforcing that on all the new gated subdivisions, and this one will have that too. It just makes it easier for them to access it from their radio and their vehicles. The Sunrise Estates gate analysis is, like I said, we've shown, from the images that they had, that they have enough of stacking. And I did want to say that, happily I found out today that instead of just having those ribbons of 5-foot wide sidewalk entering and exiting the subdivision, they've made them wider to 7 foot, which is a more comfortable width for, those type of sidewalks that, no, they're not public sidewalks, but for the residents that they have there, they will function in a way like that, leading in and out of the subdivision. So the gate analysis, also takes a look at how sturdy the structure is, and that's the first bullet statement we have on this slide. And then we always get from the developers a hold harmless clause. It could come in whatever format they wanted. This developer chose to put it as a note on the plat, which to me is very easy to keep track of. Sometimes they'll have it as a separate document, but this is actually a note on the plat. So, like I said, it will be easy to keep track of. This is the scoring that we have as of tonight because of the change of the 7-foot wide sidewalks instead of having 5-foot wide sidewalks. So remember that guidance that we had in 2018 said that if they had, more than 10 or 13 points, the gated community would be allowed. Now, you all as council still have the ability to, request or ask for other items or to, suggest other changes. So in conclusion, we are asking for Sunrise Estates to be allowed as a gated community per its depiction of the gate features on the submitted plan. And I wanted to say to Councilmember Frampus, he was exactly right that I did the presentation of the final plat before the gated subdivision, and that was on purpose to kind of get the big picture of, okay, this is what we're talking about.
This is 8C you're talking about now, right?
8-1.
Yeah, so
C1.
I talked about 8C2, or the little I's. I talked about the final plat first in the presentation.
Right.
Just to give you kind of the big picture, and then I went back to, yes.
She started there instead of there. Okay, so,
So the applicant is here, and this is not a public hearing.
We're still looking, can we get the answer on the distance between the two driveways?
Yeah, what's our minimum allowed now that we changed the ordinance? What was 50 feet or between entrances?
I believe it was 100 feet.
100?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chris Sosa. I'm with Kimley Horn, 7341 Office Park Place. Thank you, Ms. Fisher, for that great presentation. The approximate separation is 480 linear feet between the two.
Plenty. Thank you.
Yep. Again, I'm the engineer record on the project, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the council members may have on this project.
What's that in meters?
Can I use my calculator?
I'm just kidding.
Mr. Frampus?
I'll make a motion, we allow the Sunrise Estates subdivision to be a gated community.
Mr. Ditmore?
Second.
Ms. Foltz?
Turn your light off.
Your light's on. Okay, that's fine. So the motion on the floor is to approve the gated community and, excuse me? We have a motion from Mr. Frampus, a second from Mr. Ditmore. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. Now for the second item, which is the final plat of the Sunrise Estates subdivision. Ms. Foltz.
Yay, I actually get to make a motion, huh?
Yes.
Wow, I beat you, Steve. I did. Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the final plat of Sunrise Estates subdivision.
Mr. Ditmore.
Second.
Seeing no other lights, we have a motion on the floor from Ms. Foltz, first one of the night. Second from Mr. Ditmore. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes 7-0. Item D, Ms. Fisher.
All right, thank you. This is another subdivision plat, but remember, this is a mixed-use one. So this one calls itself the Space Coast Town Center East, and this is agenda item 8D. So as you recall, there's an area in the city that's just north of the subdivision we just talked about, called the Space Coast Town Center, and it spells center different if you look at its advertisement on the property. But for the subdivision, they have a different spelling. The property that they're looking to replat, because there is an existing plat, is 46.12 acres, and it's those properties that have a color on this aerial, okay? This property, you know, the overall Space Coast Town Center property was first platted in 2020. They created lots 1 and 5 and tracks. And then most of us are aware of the apartment complex that exists at the site currently. And there are other apartment builders who are looking to develop in the site. And that's part of the reason for the parcel or the tract that's called 1A being split into 2 lots. It is, just like the other case, a 2-part process, and we just try to summarize on this slide and then in the staff report, you know, some of the pertinent quantity of tracks and what the tracks are and sort of what the history is. So this slide, we thought graphically would kind of show you the evolution from 2020. You know, the phase 1 is what they called their first plat, and then in 2023, just last year, they had phase 1A, and then now the areas in dark gray are the areas that they're doing a replat on.
Christy, can I ask you a question
Sure.
on the slide? You can go to the next slide. It's pertinent to that. There's actually 4 curb cuts there, but you only have 3 on the picture. Did we eliminate one of them? Right down where Way is another curb cut that was a 4th entrance to the property, but I'm not seeing it on the plans now as it was before.
No, there's always been, when you say, you mean to US 192?
You got a curb cut at the top here, right under number 4, and then one at the little circle there, and then one all the way at the bottom
Yes.
But
Yes, so on
there's
St.
another
John's-
curb cut in there, but I was wondering if we were eliminating that now?
In St. John's Heritage Parkway, I believe that they did, so I'm gonna have the developer address that, but they still would have,
It's still, I mean,
it still meets
in
the
road
criteria.
now as there, I just didn't know if it was, that we weren't putting a road in anymore.
Yeah, and so these are private roads, and they're not public roads, so it wasn't that we did it, but yes, they have changed the location of those curb cuts, but they still meet the spacing requirements that they need. But we can certainly, if you'd like, have the developer come up and explain to you why they changed from their previous plats.
Just curious.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so they're going to end up with 2 multifamily lots. That's the second bullet. It's the same development company that built Integra Station wants to continue building in this subdivision. And the good news is that there's some interest and activity in the lots that front on US 192. And so it would be, different sort of out parcel developers that would go there. And then they do have another property that's lot number 3, where they have another interested party who would develop on that property. So the final plat lots and tracks here, we try to give you all, like I said, the color rendition to help, draw your focus to what are the roadways. And, I don't know, Councilmember Frampus, if that helps you kind of identify what's going on any easier. And then this would be for the south portion.
The little dotted lines there across from the track, it shows like a road or something, but there's nothing
Are
there.
you talking about these dash lines?
No.
No.
Midway down the left
Oh,
right
here.
there.
Yeah, this
that's
is a drainage pipe.
Okay, because there's a curb cut there on Heritage Parkway too
Yeah,
already.
We'll have the developer tell you what's going on, because, like I said, that's a county road, so. All right, just like with the other plat, we do the consistency review with the land development regulations to make sure that it's okay to bring to you all by this point, that it complies with codes, it complies with other requirements. And the same thing with the infrastructure, and it will utilize City of West Melbourne water and sewer. The transportation, I just wanted to remind everyone that they have sort of a sum of trips that they get to deduct from. And once they get to 0, so they start off with 3,923 vested trips, or it might be 32. And then, each time they have development, they deduct from that PM peak hour count. And if they get to 0, then they will have to do another traffic study and may have to do other improvements. So remember, the improvements that were done for this property was to build the St. John's Heritage Parkway. This property used to be all one. Now it's bisected on purpose by the St. John's Heritage Parkway, and with the curb cuts so that the property can be developed. We do coordinate with the outside agencies. And the previous action is this item was also heard March 13th by the Planning and Zoning Board, and they did recommend approval with a number of conditions. And, there were the last 2, 5, and 6. They have some notes added, either on the plat or in the construction drawings. So with that, we've kind of pared down those previous comments and conditions from Planning and Zoning Board to these 4. So the developer has been working with staff, to only have these items that need to be taken care of if the final plat is approved tonight. So with that, we're asking, and the Planning and Zoning Board has requested that you all approve the final plat of the Space Coast Town Center East with these conditions. And I tried to answer the questions as best I can, but maybe it's best if we have their engineer or property owner come up to the podium.
I had another question, but maybe you can explain it. Number 5 on page 8D4 states that a condition that recreation fee must be paid prior to final plat being approved, but you're asking for the final plat being approved and it's not been paid yet. So I'm
270-something.
I'm not inclined to approve the final plat without the money being paid. I know you you tried to define it there, but that is one of the conditions, so
It is one of the conditions.
I don't like,
Yeah, and here, honestly, here's sort of the hangup, is that Mr. Carey will come to you with the apartment complex's recreation agreement.
is there anything stopping them from paying the recreation fee now?
There isn't. No, there's
That is
nothing.
one
I
of
mean,
the
the
requirements,
city would never say, you know, please don't pay up front or pay early.
But it's one of the requirements, correct?
It is one of the requirements, and I think contractually, probably the owner can tell you where they're at with Integra Artemis, because I have no idea whether it's the developer or Integra Artemis who's going to be paying that recreation
Well, then
fee.
maybe we should wait on approving this final plat. So, I don't know, is there,
Or we can remove that condition and just say that it's really going to be contingent on Integra Artemis, you know, paying it. Because for the commercial lots, there's not going to be any payment. Remember, the only thing that triggers payment of the recreation fee is the development of these lots 2B and 2A.
but it was still put in this put in here for a reason, and now we're changing it midstream. I mean, I don't understand why it just can't be paid.
Well, let's have the developer or the property owner come up and explain why it can't just be paid at this time.
We'll let you speak, don't worry. I'll let them come up and tell us why they haven't paid.
Which
Bob
Yeah.
Gorlow, 7485 Fairway Drive, Miami Lakes, Florida. One of the principals. We sold this property, the yellow property, to Integra Artemis almost a year ago. We closed a year ago, and we couldn't have sold it unless that property was platted. So the only reason this is in this was a matter of convenience for a lot split for them. We would hate to think that our ability to move forward on the commercial is limited by them not paying this fee, which they should have paid, right, Christie?
Yeah, typically what developers do, as you know, is they wait until the last minute before getting site plan approval to tie up that money.
But you
So
said their responsibility to pay, isn't it your responsibility to pay since?
No, they own the property. We don't own the we haven't owned it for
But
a year. and it's
a
platted. It's
condition
platted
of
to
your
boot.
plat, sir, was to have this recreation fee paid.
It's that property, 2A and 2B. This is a lot split. That is platted. If this was a requirement now, it should have been a requirement then. They should have paid it. I would respectfully request that we.
It is a condition of your plat approval.
We have agreed to include this lot split as a matter of convenience for both them and for us. We're innocent victims here, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to what we have, the recommendation, and we don't say anything in the recommendation about payment of that recreation fee. You know, if you look at the recommendation, we don't include that as a requirement at this time.
But in your literature to us, it's one of the requirements. It's stated
From a
as
previous
one of the
action?
requirements. It's number 5 on page 8D, number 4. It says, pay the city's recreation fee with the final plat submittal since public land will not be dedicated for a new public park for this subdivision. Then it goes on to say that staff recreation fee has not been paid.
Why wasn't it paid on the first plat? Seems like it would be equally valid on that as well as a lot split.
Well, Christie.
No, they did pay it for Integra Station. The payment of that recreation fee occurred when they were getting site plan approval.
Right.
So it didn't occur with the plat per se. So I would say, you know, to answer Councilmember Frampus, the statement that says the recreation fee has not been paid is correct. That is a correct statement. And the correct statement is also the next sentence, where I say, as this plat involves a multifamily parcel and this parcel undergoes its own separate process, the payment of the recreation fee would be required prior to the apartment's site plan approval.
I get it. Sounds
Okay.
like we're making an exception.
No, we're not. We do that with everyone.
In the beginning, Well, then I don't know why you worded it that way at all.
Well, then we'll make sure that we look at that closer in the future.
Wording's awkward, but I think the action is clean. Mr. Ditmore?
I didn't get my other question answered.
Yeah, I'm going back to, you're right. But John, he's been asking and asking. Go ahead.
Should I get an answer?
You will.
I just wanted to, okay, so first of all, the recreation fee, it's part of the conditions for the plat at some point. So my question for Mr. Carey is, Mr. Carey, is it possible that before any COs are issued, that we get our rec fee paid before we issue a certificate of occupancy for anybody?
Well, it would be
before the site
before
plan.
that. It would be before the site plan is approved.
So before we're going to have our money at some point,
yeah.
correct? Okay.
We're going to have our money soon.
This is a little odd because it's a mixed-use development.
Yes.
You have to have the plat in place before you can ever get to the site plan.
So we're not in a chance
There's
of
no
losing
plat,
money.
there's no site plan. And
So, okay.
Yeah, and Integra Artemis is partially through their site plan review, but they're actually on hold until this plat is approved. And then, like I said, I wanted to remind you all that multifamily developments, whether part of a mixed use or not, they all have to sign the recreation agreement, which the city attorney brings to you all.
No worries. I'm going to make a motion that we.
Let me let him finish he had a question for the developer.
The
and
curb
then you can
cuts,
go back
you were
to
going to explain the,
Oh, yeah, can we go back to the?
the cutouts, yeah.
Oh, can we please stop at A and B here? Well, here. Like I say, Integra Artemis is on there.
Hang on a second, we need to get you a microphone.
Oh, sorry.
and they can't see the screen that you're pointing at.
Yes, we can't.
We can't see that screen that
I
you're.
have no idea.
Sorry.
Do we have a pointer? Or something? No, it doesn't matter.
Christie can point to it.
What is it that you need?
2A and 2B.
Okay.
They've been owned by
Right.
Artemis for a year. I don't know.
Use the microphone.
When you're going to get your fee for recreation, we very much want them paid because that enhances the whole.
The question was about the curb cut.
Yeah, to go back here, there's a curb cut here. We're building this road.
Right.
We can't see
Curb
that.
cut here, we're building this road, and we've already in the process of building this.
When did the other one get eliminated?
There's none of them are eliminated.
Because
three of
there's-
them. 1, 2, 3.
There's 4 total on Heritage, and it's right where where that little way sign or lettering is. Yeah,
Yes.
right straight. It goes out there. There's a curb cut right at
I don't believe so.
on Heritage. I was just curious about that one.
Yeah, we'll look into that, but I don't remember. We've owned the property a while. I don't remember.
It was built in on Heritage, and I saw a road there previously. Actually, on one of your pictures here on your thing, you have a road there.
Yeah, is there an aerial I can?
There is.
Oh, are you talking about this aerial?
That would do. Yeah, it's these are the 3 curb cuts.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Ditmore?
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to approve the final plat for Space Coast Town Center and East Tracks A1A D1 E1 subdivision with the conditions outlined by staff.
Deputy Mayor Dr. Diana Adams.
I'm not seconding it this time. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. He needs a
You need a
second.
second before you can ask her.
I'll second when I have questions too.
Miss Diana?
Well, she may.
No, go ahead.
All right. My question for you, sir, is I understand I was not on council in 2020 when this initially came forward, but I was last year when you guys presented it as the project was moving. And I've been on your website. We've had conversations with staff looking at the project as time continues with it. My recollection is this project was sold to council as very much a community feel where we would have the multifamily, some sort of corporate headquarters for the employment aspect, the plazas with a very warm, open community feel. That's what I remember. It's what was in my notes. And it's what I still see on the website, but what I see coming before us is not quite the same quality as what I feel is being presented on your website. Do you have a timeline of when you think I guess when those types of aspects are going to be built that we still see on the website, that was presented to council a year ago, things like that.
As I've said in the past, we wish there were more activity in the aerospace sector. We were hoping to get a corporate head. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we were hoping to get a corporate headquarters. Apparently, and maybe Mayor Dentley would have some perspective, but there doesn't appear to be any real activity in that sector. There doesn't seem to be anybody seeking any corporate expansion for aerospace, and we sort of reserve this area,
Well,
which you can't see right here.
Which area?
Yeah, 8 right in there, a little north. Yeah, through here. Yeah, I can point it to you, and you can. For some sort of offices and corporate headquarters, we go to all the meetings of the Space Coast Economic Development Council. We talk to people, but there doesn't seem to be any activity in that sector, and you know, we were very much hoping to get it. The other is that we have been working with, if you can follow me here, with the apartment developers to build a ring road around the site, and can you go back to the plat diagram? And we do have 2 Hilton brand hotels and a number of restaurants and food service places here that are going in. We're talking, we'd have to go to the other side of the street.
Do you know who those will be, what that quality looks like?
Bonefish Grill, Miller's Ale House, Starbucks, hoping to get a Chick-fil-A, 7-Eleven. What's the name of that taco place?
The Laredo, Texas, the Laredo tacos?
Chipotle Grill, Panda Grill, and we're talking to a couple of others here. We're hoping on the other side of the street, we've been talking for 4 years to Publix. It's frustrating, but they continue to say they want the site, but they, you know, haven't committed yet.
My concern, and I understand what is approved based on the use of that land, allows you a range of options, whether they be, you know, for fast food, you know, higher quality, things like that. Picturing this project and what it brings in terms of value for West Melbourne is where my concern is, because I feel like the perception of the project from an outward perspective, if I was a resident looking at your website, understanding what's coming in, I'm really excited. It's something new. It looks like a community town center feel. This is where people can live, work, still access grocery stores, all of these things. And my concern is, while I understand you have a responsibility to continue, you know, building and making sure things come in, I don't necessarily want to see, because we've got to get somebody in, let's pick whoever comes forward, rather than let's find the best place for the residents of West Melbourne who are going to utilize that space. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and I mean, we're with you 100%. I mean, the thing that we're desperately want and can't seem to get is some sort of office use or some sort of aerospace use. We'd very much like it, and we're doing everything we can. As far as the apartments, yes, we have the apartments around here, and we're beginning to fill in the food options here and have Publix over there. And I think as those things fill in and go around there, that there'll be that feel. But right now, this happens to be where we are in terms of you know, the aerospace options, which so far haven't materialized for anybody in the whole area. There, as far as I know, there's no requirements for any aerospace expansion. I don't know why. The only reason I would think would be because so many people want to work from home that when someone like Raytheon gets new employees, they let the older employees work from home and don't expand. But we've been going to all the meetings, and we have been going rather slowly, in part because we have been waiting for that sort of thing. The apartments we've been working on go around the area are 4-story luxury apartments, and we're holding out for Publix rather than other and a very nice walkable Publix community shopping area district. So we do think that these lakes in the middle are critical areas to socialize as they. And I don't know if you've seen what has been built as far as the walkway. I think it's pretty good myself.
Yes, I've driven the area.
Yeah, but our sentiments are with you exactly. We just wish these things would materialize more quickly. Certainly would be more profitable for us if they did.
My concern is just making sure that the residents of West Melbourne get the grade A that they were looking for, and not settling for a grade B just because of situations or speed to get things done.
Well, we think the people we're bringing in are very high quality. That's subject, of course, to your own opinion.
Thank you.
Ms. Waltz?
Yes, Christy, could you go back to that colored slide? Yes, that one right there. And up there on the top right where it says A4 and D1, where the hotels are going to go, right there, yeah. That road is not going out to Brandywine, is it not?
No, it
Okay.
would not go out, and that's why one of the conditions that we're asking for is that there actually be bollards, sort of a physical barrier to make sure that that road, cul-de-sacs and ends, and does not connect to Brandywine Lane. So I believe you may want to tell some of the newer council members about the notion that whenever the Fulcher property develops, that you would continue that road.
We also own this parcel over here, which we had worked together to bring into Space Coast Town Center. However, the person who owns the mortgage, for some reason, didn't approve. But so we will eventually develop this area along the freeway, and there'll be no connection to Brandywine.
Okay. I'm going to make sure that that's written.
That is part of the
Thank you.
condition of approval.
Okay, seeing no further requests to speak, we have a motion from Mr. Ditmore, a second from Ms. Volz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So it approves.
Jump on the bandwagon and go nay.
So it passes 5-2 with Mr. Frampus and Deputy Mayor Adams voting no. Thank you. I think that's all you have, Christy. Is that true?
Yes, that's it.
All right. So it moves us to council reports. Ms. Young.
Thank you very much, Mayor. You heard from the Crystal Lakes people come and speak, and I have been over there quite frequently. I have friends that live over there, and they back right up to Burdock, and we go out and enjoy ourselves in their backyard, and it's wonderful. It has been, but now things have changed. As you heard them say, they're very well behaved, but they are very upset that this has happened. They had no notice that this was going to happen, and it's kind of scary now when you look out. As you saw by the video, you could hear the traffic, but you couldn't see it. So this is very troublesome. On March 13th, you might remember that there actually was a semi that ran off the road and crashed into the trees, and unfortunately, the driver of the semi did not survive that. And if you drive past that, as I did today, and I have several times since March 13th, you can see that it is the trees that stopped that truck from going through, because right through the broken trees is a house. So there was enough force from that truck of it coming off that stopped by the trees that it actually broke the frame of the truck. So I realized that the FDOT does not have to put any of the foliage back or anything like that, but they could give them a wall. There's a wall south of them and a wall north of them, and they certainly could put a wall there. So if we could please work or ask city manager to work in conjunction with their HOA as opposed to individual residents with their HOA, and perhaps we can write a letter. We can ask if they will please go ahead and put a wall up for these people and give them something, some kind of, I won't say security, but some kind of at least feeling of something that they once had. And then they can, if they want to plant their own foliage behind their particular property, then they can certainly do that. But they could get a wall up before that. So I'm very happy that they came to speak tonight, and I've been working with them as best I could. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the open air market. I don't know if it's a festival or a fair or what kind of event it is, other than the fact that it was well attended. It was here at the community center, community park. And it sounds like it's going to be monthly, which is exciting. And from what I understand, I did not come last month, which is, I think, the second Sunday of the month. And it has grown considerably from the last one. So I'm looking forward to May even being larger. So it's actually growing, and I thought that was great. So kudos to the Parks and Rec on the open air market. As far as I also attended a sustainability fair that was held at Fred Poppy Park, which is in Palm Bay. And it was not a large event, but it's an event that kind of triggered in my mind that, next week, next Saturday, is Earth Day celebrations all across the county. There's several events going on, and I didn't know if the city manager, if that's in the queue, that we have any kind of Earth Day celebration going on or any recognition for that.
I am not aware, but I am happy to check with our rec department if they have anything planned or our parks department for Earth Day.
Okay, because I know that they have several of these events happening all across our county, so that'd be great. Thank you. That's my report.
Ms. Foltz.
Yes, I did go to the open air market. That's the first time that I went there also, but I didn't go until late afternoon because I was at church. And they were asking me about the next month happens to be on Mother's Day, and whether or not we were going to have it. And I was like, I have no clue. I don't know how that works and whether it matters. But in talking to Mr. Rhodey, he said they had it on Easter Sunday, and they were pretty booked. So I don't know. They just might. So that's just some questions that I had. I also talked to him regarding the former pastor at Calvary who had passed away, and some of those people want to plant a tree across the street in his honor. And so I'm going to have them get in contact with Mr. Rhodey about that. So they asked what kind. I said, I have no clue. So you can figure that one out. So, okay, that's all.
It won't be an oak tree next to sidewalks.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Deputy Mayor Adams.
Good call. A couple of things of highlight. Junior Achievement held their Business Hall of Fame this past weekend. They just recognized people in our community that are doing significant work in terms of the economic side of our community, as well as investing in students for their financial literacy. I know that this council has heard me say it before, but they do great work with reaching our students in our school system and trying to support their financial literacy across all grade levels. But they're always looking for more volunteers. So if you're looking for a great thing to get plugged in on, I highly recommend Junior Achievement. I love getting back in the classroom with them. It is a lot of fun, and the students enjoy it. I know a couple of us attended the celebration of life for our city staff member, Sean Morrison. I thought that was well done in support of his family. But I just wanted to recognize that because I know the family worked to make that happen. We did have the trash bash that same day at the community park. The most exciting thing we found was the back end of a toilet. I know. Was it yours, Dan? He's like, you found it. No, it was. Every year we always pull something weird out of the space. And so that was kind of in the back end of the community park, and that chalked it up as the weirdest thing that was found that day.
Yeah.
But I know that we'll continue supporting that as a city, something to consider for next year because our staff does such a good job from the park side of making sure that things are relatively clean. We didn't have tons of stuff to pick up, so we ended up going to other parks and trying to do our best, but it may be better to have smaller groups at different parks to better utilize the volunteers that did come out. The Runway of Dreams at Promise was held recently, and they raised over $100,000 for the residents at Promise between the lunch and the dinner event. They just do an amazing job every year. I don't think I've ever attended and not bawled my eyes out. And every year I forget tissues. So if you attend, I highly recommend packing tissues. It's just really heartwarming to see the Promise resident. You'll bring tissues? Highly recommend. They just share the stories of the residents. You get to hear from their families. Just really touching things from the Promise residents. The last thing was just a reminder, we are less than 50 days. Mr. Rhodey may have concerns, but we are less than 50 days away from the start of hurricane season. So it's just, he's not concerned. All right. So it's just a note out to our residents for something to be considering. I know people like to suddenly, as hurricanes are on the horizon, to decide to trim their trees 3 days before a hurricane hits town. And then we get calls about Waste Management not having enough trucks to go and do pickup and things like that. So be in less than 50 days. I'm trying to remind people early, if you're going to trim your trees, do them now or do them soon, so that way we're not dealing with projectiles that could be issues in your neighborhood or with your area. So just a note on that. The last question was in regards to the Crystal Lakes neighborhood. Mr. Rhodey, do we know if, from a tree and foliage perspective, are there ever times where either our city or even other cities are, through building or other things, getting rid of foliage and we just end up bringing it to the landfill or elsewhere where then they could be, I don't know, replanted, repurposed, something like that FDOT would accept? I don't know if that's allowed. It was just, I was trying to think outside the box.
I'm happy to look into that.
Okay, I'll take it. Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Mr. Frampus.
Thank you, Mayor. I did attend the memorial. It's always a sad day to say goodbye to a friend and coworker. I did also attend the grand opening of Legacy Real Estate on the 6th. 3 lovely women are co-brokering that agency there, Joanne, Angelique, and Stephanie, and I really hope they make a great office out of it. It was a good startup for their business. And as far as Crystal Lakes goes, you did get in contact with FDOT, right? And can you just tell us what you found out there?
Yeah, I mean, FDOT, we did reach out to FDOT, and the representative, the FDOT's regional representative, did send the email, and we did have the city clerk forward that to the people who did email as well as to the council, stating that this was a routine item for them, that they've paid contractor, they award contracts to clean out areas, sometimes to help improve drainage, other times to remove invasive species to help keep the trees of desire healthy and not getting endangered. So this was something that was planned by FDOT. I don't know, I've been around a lot of FDOTs, Wisconsin DOT, they don't communicate well with us. They come and do their thing.
I'm a little confused on the pepper plants because you know as well as I do, if you don't remove the root structure to them, they grow back
That's right.
quickly, and it seems if they just cut them off and took them out, that's not going to fix the problem. So therefore, I question why it was even done, because they'll just come back in force. So I'm just confused by the whole.
Yeah, we're happy to help broker a meeting to get to the bottom of some of those answers.
I didn't know if they were going to come back and dig everything up later after everything was cleared. It's really confusing.
That part they didn't allude to if there was a next step in their process in that section of ground.
Thank you.
Although the equipment is still in the area, so maybe they're doing more.
Mr. Ditmore.
No report.
Anything from our management team? That's you, Mr. Rhodey. Got anything? We're done otherwise.
No.
Your attorney? Nope, we're all set.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We're done, guys.